Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by guitar-zoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to guitar-zoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
Francis asks, any suggestions on how to get back on beat when you get off?
Well, stop. I mean, honestly, the most important thing is that, and I talked about this a little while ago in one of those Monday motivation things, but the most important thing when you're playing is that you never lose your surroundings, the music that's happening around you, whether it's a backing track or a metronome or a band or something like that. You never want to get so deep in yourself that all you're doing is concentrating on you. You have got to learn how to share your brain space with the sounds that are happening around you, because that's what music really is. And what happens is sometimes when we're doing something, you know, we're practicing, right? And we're so intense on what it is that we're doing that we're not listening around us. That listening element that I keep thinking the back of my head, but that listening element has to exist all the time when you play, if you're going to play with somebody or something.
Nice. This is a very honest assessment. Richard from London says, I have no natural rhythm. Is this something you can learn and develop? If so, how would I train for this?
Well, the best way, to be honest with you, when it comes to not having a sense of rhythm, it has to start with listening. It's not an instrument thing. It's not a guitar thing or a piano thing. You've got to learn how to listen. You got to retrain yourself to think about how to listen. Like what I do with students a lot of times, or what I used to do with students a lot of times, is I would take a song, and instead of starting the song at the beginning of the song and then counting, which we would do over and over and over, like I would take a student and I'd start the song and we'd count together 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So they know it's 4, right? So they know they're counting to 4. Then what I start doing is I take the song and I just move the needle to somewhere in the middle of the song, and I just start playing the song. They have to listen and try and figure out where the 1 is to start counting again. So there's the availability of being able to feel this that we have to learn how to do. And then there's the availability of being able to go 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 to find that 1. Those are two different things. And they don't happen through learning a G chord, or the guitar has nothing to do with it. It has to do with just sitting there listening to music, but having somebody help you, guide you to know where that is, helps a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've always said rhythm is really weird because it's almost like trying to explain a color to somebody who's blind. They have no reference. Like if you can't feel rhythm, it's hard to have a reference point. But that's why if you work with somebody that can help you by talking to you and explaining it to you and listening, and the most important thing is listening, they can maybe get you to see that color that they're seeing.
Love it. Steve, a question, this may have been answered already, but is your new Essential Techniques course applicable for acoustic guitar learners too?
It is to a certain degree. I mean, there are certain things like finger picking and things that are specifically more for acoustic.
In the strumming and rhythm section, definitely.
Well, there's all kinds of things. I mean, even picking. I mean, we use all of those techniques, whether it's acoustic or electric. But there are certainly sections of the course that are geared toward electric players that want to learn how to do arpeggios and sweeping and things like that. But don't kid yourself for 1 minute that there aren't acoustic players out there that smoke at that stuff, because there are.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it really could be either or, for sure.
Hey, I'm going to ask Matt or whoever on the team is available to answer. There's some really specific questions coming in about the Essential Techniques course. One of them is does it cover tremolo picking and tremolo picking and strumming are taught in the course? Strumming for sure. Tremolo picking, I'm not sure. Matt, if you could look at the mind map that Steve created on all the topics on this course, you might be able to find tremolo picking in there or not. There's just a ton of things on that mind map. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I talk about speed picking in there. I don't remember if I talk about tremolo picking per se, but we talk about speed picking, 3-note per string picking, you know, that kind of thing, arpeggios,
for sure,
stuff like that. Yeah.
Man, these questions are so good, guys. Thank you so much for submitting this and just hanging out with us. It's so awesome just to be here with you guys. It's so fun. And for me personally, I don't get to do this enough. Let's see. Sam says, do you always have to, oh no, we already covered that. You always have to strum all strings on each stroke. The answer to that is no. Steve, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Jennifer says, I have a habit of holding the pick with 3 fingers instead of 2. Is this wrong?
Well, it's not that it's wrong. Okay, you find a way that works for you. The one downside, well, there's really 2, to holding the pick with 3 fingers is that you have a tendency to grip more because you're using more fingers to hold, so you can get a bit more tension here. But for me, the most important thing is I use my fingers for I use my middle finger for hybrid picking, where I'll pick with my pick and then pick with my fingers. So when you learn to do things like that, when you play, you can learn to play scales and things like that using that middle finger to pick with, okay? And like hybrid picking in general. So that would be the only thing that I would say is that I would see as a bit of a detriment, is if you ever wanted to get into some of the more modern techniques, using that middle finger for hybrid picking is a really important thing to do. Mm-hmm.
Man, here's one from Adrian. He says, when you're trying to develop better rhythm strumming, what is better to establish your practice? Faster beats or smaller fraction notes at slower beat speed? For example, try 16th notes at a slower beat or 8th notes at a higher speed.
Well, they're gonna overlap each other anyway. So if you're trying to practice, again, think about your practice as 2 different things. You're trying to practice a comfort zone. That's one thing. Because when you play, the thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you play with other musicians, or you're writing music or whatever it is, or anytime you're put into a situation where you have to decide on something quickly, you have to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's part of the battle here, because there's no guitar player on the planet that can do everything. They just do what they do really well, right? And that's what we see them doing all the time. So if you're given a tempo of 130, for instance, you should already know what it is that you're capable of doing, what's comfortable, what your go-to is going to be in terms of your strumming and things like that, right? Now, if you're trying to develop your speed, a great way to do that is just start at something like 100 and practice 8th notes until you get to 200. When you get to 200, you can go back to 100 and you're doing 16th notes already. Mm-hmm. So, because this is what I do for like picking exercises and things like that to get people better at picking and stuff like that, is we start at whatever. Again, 100's an even number, so it's easy. But we start at 100, we start doing 8th notes or 2 per click until we get to 200. When we get to 200, we go back down to 100. Now we're doing 4 per click.
Right.
And it's just an easy way to train your brain to think about it. So you'd know if you hit 160, you know whether or not you're going to be doing 2 of strumming, of picking, or whatever, or if you're going to be doing 4. That's going to be relative to what fits the musical situation you find yourself in, and what fits you, what fits your comfort zone.
Nice. One quick question from Andy Hickman says, Steve, I have a lot of your courses. Is this one going to have different stuff in it? And Andy, I'll answer that for Steve. Rhythm, all this stuff overlaps to a certain extent, right? If you have a blues licks course, you're going to have some type of rhythm in there. So rhythm is one of the techniques that Steve's teaching in the Essential Techniques course. But the difference, I think, in this course and all the other courses that Steve's created over the years is this is all of what Steve considers the essential techniques in one place. So it's not just you're getting a piece of technique in another course. This thing is solely focused on the essential techniques that every guitar player needs to learn in order to become a better guitar player. So
right. And if you think about it, even the name essential techniques, like you need to learn how to strum and how to control the groove, not just strum. Like we get this mentality in our brain that goes, oh, I understand down up strumming because there it is. I just down up strum. I got it. We've got to learn to manipulate and control the things that we learn. With control, we gain confidence. And that's the whole thing is as you practice things, essential techniques are techniques that you need regardless of whether you play acoustic or electric or country or rock or blues or whatever. We always equate like speed picking with, metal or hard rock or something. We don't think of it in terms of blues, but then you watch someone like Joe Bonamassa and go, oh, no, it exists there too. Because what you're dealing with is just a manipulation of tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Eighth note, a 16th note, a 32nd. That's all you're dealing with, right? But then you've got to be able to apply that. You've got to learn not only to understand what it is, but, well, how do I do it, right? That's what techniques are all about. So the course isn't made to be for advanced players, right? But as the course goes on, there's more refined elements that are specific to certain people. Like you might go, wow, I really want to learn how to speed pick, or I really want to learn how to play arpeggios, or I really want to learn how to finger pick. Well, the average speed picker probably doesn't want to learn how to finger pick, right? So there's different specific techniques for different people toward the end of the course, where the first half of the course is all absolute fundamental stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Just to give you guys an idea about this thing, I'm just glancing over the mind map, and we should probably get a link to this somewhere on our website so people who are interested in the Essential Techniques course can actually see all the different topics in there. So somebody on the team can maybe grab Steve's mind map and just put it there on the sales page. That would be pretty cool. I think people would dig that, where they're getting information about the course. Anyway, vibrato. I mean, I'm just glancing over this thing. There's guitar and amp setup. There's chords, strumming and rhythm, which is what this workshop is on. That's just one aspect of this course. There's picking and hand development, picking control, fretting hand development, so legato techniques. And then the more, as it goes on, it gets a little more advanced. Hand synchronization. There's a whole entire section in this course just on bends. Whole bends, half bends, 3-fret bends, blues bends, unison bends, harmony bends, double pumps, siren bends, bend slides, bend pull-offs. I mean, that's all. That could be a whole course just right there on bending, really. There's vibrato. There's hand, did I already say hand synchronization? Slides, arpeggios, string skipping, playing octaves, two-hand tapping, harmonics, dynamic tools, guitar tone tools, sound effects, finger picking, hybrid picking, and capo. Those are all the topics, and every one of those things is broken down into subtopics. So it's a big course. And another cool thing I've just thought about, Steve, is that you don't have to go through this thing from start to finish. You just need one game-changing technique that you can apply to your playing to make this entire thing worth it. Right?
That's right.
Cool. All right, buddy. Let's bounce back to a few more questions here, because I just really want to get as many of these out of the way as we can, because people will take the time.
On the screen here, it says, do you use a thinner pick when you strum versus power chords or lead? I use thick picks, and then it just says and. But I use the same pick for everything. That's not the same way that everybody works. Some people like a thinner pick when they strum, and believe me, they really do sound different. Like if you use a thinner pick on an acoustic guitar, you really hear that kind of airiness to a thinner pick. But I'm lazy, and B, I lose picks constantly. I've learned to play with just one size guitar pick for literally everything that I do. But when you're in the studio and you're recording and things like that, it's nice to have a variety of different picks, because they really do sound different. So,
a couple of easy ones for you, Steve. What kind of amps does Steve use for most of his lessons?
Most of my lessons are done with either my Kemper, my Hughes & Kettner, Black Spirit, or plugins. I have all kinds of different VST plugins that I use, but I think most of the time I could say it's probably my Kemper.
Okay. Any ideas? Sorry, I missed the name on this one. Can't find it. Shoot. Any ideas on strap height as it relates to strumming?
Well, again, if you're standing up and playing, the most important thing is not how cool you look. And I believe me, when I'm not saying that sarcastically, if you've played in a band and you've toured, there's an element to, there's the rock star guitar look like Slash, and then there's comfortable. And the older I get, the further up my guitar tends to get. But that's the thing is you got to find a place that it feels comfortable on you. I actually have a strap coming soon. I forget the name of the company, but it actually has a little clip that you hit, and it you can lower the guitar to wherever you want it for certain songs, and then you just hit it again and it goes back up again. It's just a cool string extension that I wish somebody had created a long time ago, because sometimes it feels kind of awesome to have the guitar a bit lower. And then sometimes you got to have it up for more articulate things.
Dennis says, what do you do when you're playing rhythm and lead? What do you do when playing rhythm and your lead guitar gets off course? Do you stay on the course or do you go ahead with your lead? I'm sorry, I did a bad job reading that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. If you're playing lead and you get off,
I think that's the question.
Because if you're playing lead and you get off, then you get back on. I mean, again, I am never not connected to the music that's happening around me. And I'm not saying that egotistically. What I'm saying is I can't not hear it. So if I'm playing on stage with a band and the solo comes up or whatever, I might make a mistake in the solo, right? Or God knows what, I break a string. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. But I never disconnect from the music that's happening. So even if I was to make a mistake or whatever might happen, I still am connected to the music. So I know how long I have left in the solo and I can feel the beat and, that all comes through rehearsal. And I can't stress enough to everybody how important it is that you understand that guitar isn't just fingers on the fretboard. That is absolutely crucial, but it's not the only element. So much of music has to do with how you hear it, how you think about it, and how you respond to it. Like that's half the whole battle in itself. We can't respond without being able to do things. We can't respond to music if we don't know how to strum or we don't know chords or whatever it might be, right? Those are the tools that we have. Mm-hmm. But our ability to be able to listen to the music at all times is what keeps us where we need to be. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. It just means the mistake, we can follow that up with something else because we know where we are.
Yeah. Guys, I see a comment on here from Todd. He says, hey, thanks, Steve. Oh, sorry. This thing keeps jumping every time I start to read it. He says, thanks, Steve and Dan. Great stuff. Purchase the Essential Techniques course at the beginning of this live stream. All of Steve's courses are gold, in my opinion. I just want to thank you so much, Todd. Really appreciate your support. Guys, if you're interested in any of this technique stuff, Steve's new course, Essential Techniques, it's for you. And it's available at guitarzoom.com right now. It's on sale. There's some extra special bonuses that are available right now, which during the launch, you're going to get all of this cool stuff along with the course. And then the price is going to go up, and it'll still be available, but it'll just be at a different price point. Still a bargain, in my opinion. And I do want to ask that, guys, if you got this course, Steve and I would love to know what you want to get out of it. Why did you actually purchase it, and what is your goal and what's the one thing that you want to get out of it? Because remember, with a course like this, you don't have to learn it all. It's a big thing, right? You can just jump in there and say, I want to get my chops up in regards to strumming. And so you can just go straight to the strumming section, just focus on that for a week or 2 weeks, come back to the other stuff later on. But we'd be interested to know, if you get this course, what's the one thing that you want to accomplish out of it? And when you state your goals like that, often you have a much better chance of actually accomplishing them. So that's another good reason to come back and tell us. Plus, we love to hear from you guys. Steve, we've been going for about an hour here. We've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you want to do today? Should we take some more questions? Are you pretty smoked, man? I know you already had a live session earlier today with another group.
Well, there's another section I'd like to talk about if we have time.
Oh, okay. Cool, man. I'm just here to facilitate.
You'll see a lot of people, like I just had, let me see this one here. Rhythm comes naturally, don't really think about it, playing by ear, maybe the reason. He says, is there a way to identify what beat you're playing without the use of a metronome? And the thing is that, again, don't overthink this stuff. If you're feeling it already, that's fine. But I always think because I've always tried to teach students to think about things in terms of the real world. Like, what I would love for you is to be able to play with other musicians, whatever that means. And you might already be playing, and that's awesome, but everybody isn't. And the question always comes up, well, why is that, right? Why aren't you? Are you not confident enough? Do you not feel whatever? And the thing about playing is the more you put yourself in various situations through your practice, the more you can develop confidence in those different situations. So let me show you something. So let's say, for instance, we go back to 100 beats per minute here.
Hey, Steve, you might want to minimize me.
Oh, gotcha. So here, let's do this. So if I was going to practice this, and let's say I'm doing quarter notes, which is just going to be this. Not much happening here. Okay? But I still need to make sure that I can actually play on the beat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build what I call a tree. I'm going to go from quarter note to an eighth note to a triplet to a 16th note and then come back down. And I'm just going to do this with the 0 on the 6th string, but you could do this with a scale. Maybe you're practicing pentatonic. Maybe you're practicing diatonic. You can do this with anything. Okay? So once I start it, what I want to do is I want to learn to feel that quarter note. Okay? It's not a lightning strike. It's not. It's bigger than you think it is. You've got to learn to feel that beat. And again, I know it's just a quarter note, but you've got to learn to feel it. It's not just like, you can't do that. You've got to learn to feel it when you play. And you can feel it through the motion of your hand. Notice how this is coming from my wrist. So let's move to eighth notes. Now you're going to notice I'm doing eighth notes with downs. I'm feeling that first one each time. So even if I get off a little bit, like we've been talking about with some of your questions, I feel the next one coming, so I can get back on again.
If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, go to guitar-Zoom.com and consider becoming a premium member. There are 3 memberships to choose from. VIP, which gives you instant access to a library of short but powerful courses as well as new bite-sized lessons each month. There's also Play Songs that gives you step-by-step lessons so you can learn to play your favorite songs fast. And finally, there's Masterclass, university-level training on everything from soloing to music theory, from blues to home recording. For more info about these memberships and all the premium courses available to you, go to guitar-Zoom.com. Now back to the podcast.
Okay? Now you could do these as alternate picking if you wanted to, like this. And that would be okay. So next up we've got triplets. Now this is a different one because when I do this, I'm going down, and then up, up. So every time it clicks, I'm going down, up, 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 down, up. Because my pick just wants to do this. It doesn't want to go. I don't want to make different patterns. I just want to feel my arm doing this the entire time. So I'm going down, up, 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 down, up. And my pick is just going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like it always does. So as I'm playing, thinking about lining up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Then you could go into your 16ths. See, I could use any of these with scales. Like, let's say I went. Or right, whatever it would be, wherever you are in your practice, but learning how to feel these different rhythms. So I know at 100 I can do this, but I can't do this. Or at 120 I can do this, but I can't do this. And it's not a bad thing. It's just awareness. So you know what you can and can't do. It's very important to learn how to do that. So that's something that I think you should try and work on as well. And I think that's probably pretty good. We can do some more questions if you want, but I think that's just a really great practice tool for people to use.
Yeah, I love it. Man, there are a lot of questions. Guys, as your questions keep coming in, let's just try to, if you could help Steve and I, today we're just doing rhythm. So if you're asking questions about scales and other things, we are going to do additional workshops for you. So you'll definitely want to join us. We're doing this one today is Monday, October 12th. This is live. It'll be as a replay what do you call it, Encore or whatever, premiere thing, it'll be available on YouTube tomorrow. Each day we're going to be publishing these on YouTube. So you can go to the GuitarZoom YouTube channel and check out this workshop series. Just look for essential techniques, and then we'll put all of these there for you so you can go back and watch them later. But one of the questions we have here, Steve, is how do you know when you're ready to jam with other players on a regular basis? And what should you expect?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, when I first started playing out, I was pretty terrified because you just never know if you're good enough. And it's just a whole new world, right? I mean, you spend all this time practicing in your room or whatever, and then all of a sudden you have to be around other people and try and make a musical connection with that, let alone a personal connection and all of those sorts of things. And it's kind of hard. I always tell people an easy way through is if you start off, maybe you have a small local church or something that you could play in just to kind of get a feel for playing with other people, or maybe you have some friends. Don't think of it as a band so much, but friends that you can get together with and just hang out with on a Sunday afternoon and, play some music. When I was a kid, I used to get together with a neighborhood kid that played drums, and I'm sure we were awful. I am absolutely positive. But it was fun. Like, it was really fun, and it was an experience because I'd never played at that volume before, because I'd always play with my stereo and stuff like that. And then here comes this drummer over to my house, and he sets his stuff up, and I'd never, other than being maybe at a concert or something, I'd never heard drums that close up in my life. And he was loud, which drums are. So then all of a sudden my amp had to be loud, and that initial experience of going, I like this volume thing I could get used to. But I never would have known if I hadn't jammed with him, Right. So then you start getting used to, well, how do you work at volumes, right? Because now I'm not at a bedroom volume anymore. Now I'm at an actual volume. Well, do I have the right amp for that, right? And how do I control the feedback? And all these other things come up. So there's always questions about that stuff. And so I don't know that there's ever a perfect time. I just think people are so critical about themselves or toward themselves that they take too much time. They keep making an excuse to not get together with people, where I guarantee you the majority of people aren't as far ahead as you think they are. You know what I mean?
So true, man.
So
that's wisdom right there, guys. I think you heard him, what he just said. The majority of people are not nearly as good as you think they are. Here's a quick. Go ahead, buddy.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just heard I listened to Sirius XM a lot. There's a station called Volume, and Eddie Trunk is on there. He was interviewing the guitar player from The Cult, and I thought it was really interesting because he goes, "What's the number one thing that you would never want the world to know about you?" And he said, "Being found out." And I thought that was the perfect answer because it's the truth. It doesn't matter if you're Steve Vai. It doesn't matter who you are. They're all amazing. Don't get me wrong. They're all amazing. But they can do what they do, and they can't do what they can't do. And they don't do what they can't do in front of you.
And I think there comes a point in your life where you have to say, I don't care what I can't do. This is where I play, and I'm just going to do the best I can, and I'm just going to do what I do.
Or build yourself realistic goals, but don't give up everything else in the pursuit of that goal. Like don't not practice because you want to develop your alternate picking. I think it's wonderful you want to develop your alternate picking. But learn what's available on this platform. The people, the music, whatever it is you can do, and then keep striving to the next level.
Claudio asks, does the angle of the pick matter when you strum chords?
I don't really angle the pick when I strum chords. I angle the pick more when I'm picking strings, and I have to kind of get more efficient. When I strum, I tend to stay pretty flat. And again, I'm using a really thick guitar pick right now. But really thin picks, they feel really good when they bend and kind of slide through the strings. And there really isn't much of a reason to have to turn it on a strum. Nothing that's really coming to my mind. I think you could keep the pick pretty straight.
Yeah. We have a question here, guys, from Bill. He says, I see that the bonuses that are included with the Essential Techniques course are for the first 100, 200 buyers and so forth. How do I know if I can get all this? I don't know who bought, and I don't want to miss out on the bonus stuff if I still buy now. Guys, I just want you to know that if you decide that Essential Techniques, Steve's new course, is for you, we'll make sure you get all those bonuses because we want to take care of everybody in our group here. So don't worry about that. We'll make sure that you get all of those, even if the deadline's already passed for those particular fast action bonuses that you're talking about. Don't worry about that. Don't let that hold you back. We'll make sure that since you guys are hanging out with us, that you get all of that. Okay, so don't worry about that. Melik Kaiser says, that's a very interesting name. By the way, it's so fascinating to have people from all over the world. To me, it's just mind-boggling. It's so cool. Speaking of that, I wanted to ask everybody, if you could, please respond back if this time works for you. Steve and I really didn't know what time would be a good time. I'm on the Pacific Coast time. Steve's in Central time. So we chose 10 o'clock Pacific, noon Central for us. But we have people from all over the planet who showed up. So if you could just let us know if this time works for you, that'd be awesome. Also, if you went ahead and got the course, please come back and circle back and post in here and tell us what you hope to accomplish from it. What's the number one thing you want to take from it? Anyway, Melik Kaiser says, does the development of rhythm technique ever get to the point where you can play a new riff without even thinking about it? Or will it always be necessary to learn the riff first before you can become proficient with it? In other words, Steve, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure I'm really understanding that question.
In other words, I think what he's trying to, Melik, I'm not sure if that says I don't know. Anyway, Melik says, does the development of rhythm technique ever get to the point where you can just play a new riff without even thinking about it? Or is it necessary to, I think he's saying break it down like you were doing in the beginning of this thing, like tick, 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 tick.
Again, they're all different. I mean, as your ability and your understanding of music and the musical situations you find yourself in improve, there's more things that you're able to access very quickly. That doesn't mean everything, of course. I mean, there's always going to be some things that, if you get some crazy Periphery song or Dream Theater song or something like that, oftentimes those are going to take some practice. But that's why there's got to be a balance between the daily practice routine that you're putting yourself through and the musical situations you're putting yourself through. Like, I always try and tell people to find a balance. Like, you need to work on technique, no doubt about it. But you also need to be working on learning how to play songs or a riff there's just all kinds of different things to kind of balance those things out, because then you're also putting these techniques in motion. You're putting them into a real situation where you can feel them and you can hear them and you can see them being applied. So there's no doubt that the better you get at all of these things, the easier all of those things become. But there's always going to be stuff that's, escalated in terms of complexity.
Mm-hmm. And guys, if you want to learn a bunch of songs, I don't even know if you know about this, but Steve has an entire membership. It's called Play Songs with Steve Stine. And it's a whole bunch of songs all in one annual membership. And you get access to everything, all the songs at once, instantly. You can check that out at playsongs.com. That's playsongs.com. That's Steve's membership for learning all different types of songs. And that entire membership is all about songs. It's got technique and all this other stuff. So if you want to learn that, that's available for you. Bro, we've been on here for like an hour and 15. You still got some fuel in the tank or what?
I want to get this. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but somebody asked, do you always count when you play or go by feel? And this is a very confusing thing for people to understand, because feel usually means I didn't go to school and I didn't have a teacher and I just play by feel. And counting means I went to school and I studied music and I count. And neither one of those are true. Feel is something that you use when you play to make the song sound more musical, more authentic, more gelling, if you will. But counting is something that always has to happen to a certain degree, again, when I play, I can't say that there's a certain amount of one or the other that's happening. They're all always happening. But like I said, depending on what you want to call it, like I remember, with Eddie Van Halen passing, I remember he used to talk about like scales and how he never really knew scales. He just played. And that might be true to a certain degree, but he most certainly knew scales because he played in key. Now, he might not know the names of those scales, but that doesn't mean he didn't know them, right? So sometimes the terminology can be kind of confusing. You can play with feel and still count at the same time. Very much so. Those two things can be synonymous, or not synonymous, but exist in the same realm together. So you might be feeling the beat or feeling the groove, but you're still subconsciously kind of counting in the background.
Man, what do we take it from here? I want to just remind everybody that we're going to be doing several of these workshops. We can't pack everything in here at once. Today was just on rhythm.
Yeah.
So go ahead, buddy.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, yeah. I mean, we've got one coming up again Wednesday, and what we'll do is I'm just going to keep trying to throw you some things that you can practice, and then if you wind up, if essential techniques is something that you're looking for, it's got all of these things in there. But the most important thing is all of these questions that you have, whenever I do these sorts of things, whether I go live, on Mondays or I go live, like we have a VIP group, I go live once a month with that. People always have a lot of questions. And the goal is to try and get you to think about some of these things. And maybe some of these things that we talk about are going to answer 2 or 3 of those questions if you just think about them a little bit. And reassess the way that you're approaching your practice. That's what I want you to do, is think about every day when you practice, work a little bit on technique. And a little bit, I don't mean 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't know what I mean. I mean, every day you should work a little bit on getting better at some element that you need in your playing. At the same time, you should try and find some things that are inspiring or motivating that you can see everything happening for real. And for me, it's always been songs. I think songs are so important because if you pick a song that you love, like when I was a kid, I wanted to learn how to play Highway to Hell because I loved AC/DC, right? Or I wanted to learn how to play Carry On Wayward Son or whatever it might be. When I started figuring out that I could play those songs, maybe not every part perfectly, but I could get from point A to point B in that song, and I could put my record on and I could play it. It felt really good. And the reason I was able to play that, again, maybe not perfect, maybe not all the parts, but I could play from A to B, is because I had developed certain aspects of my technique, certain aspects of my availability to be able to listen, and then apply those while I'm playing. And I still use those things today playing in bands. That's exactly how I see things. I'm just not in my bedroom anymore, right? But I still sense all those same things. So that's what I want you to think about with your daily practice.
Steve, you're an awesome guy, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, and I know all these amazing people who showed up today to hang out with us also appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your gift with us. And I truly believe, I know you get nervous and I give you a bunch of compliments, but just listen. Everybody feels the same way. I'm just basically summarizing what everybody says. Just go and look at the hundreds of thousands of YouTube comments of people and who are super appreciative, and all the testimonials of people who actually invest in your courses. You have a real gift, man, for not just being able to play, which everybody knows you're a great player, but also to be able to teach and to break things down in a way that's easily understandable. And I think all of us as guitar players have had the experience where you know somebody who can really play, but they can't really explain how they do it. And I think when you have the gift that you do, which is to be able to break things down, that's why you're able to help literally millions of people. That video that you had, the how to solo in 5 minutes, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it has over 9 million views now, that one video. The only way a video on YouTube gets 9 million views is, especially for guitar players. I mean, how many guitar players are there on the planet? I don't know. But it's people getting benefit from that and then sharing it with each other. So I think that speaks volumes about your abilities, and I just can't tell you what a privilege it is for all of us to be here with you and hang out and get all this amazing value from what you're teaching. And thank you for making this course, because I think it's something that's been lacking in our repertoire of courses. We don't have anything that's really specific to techniques, and finally we do. Everything we talked about today is available, guys, in Steve's new course. It's called Essential Techniques. It's available at guitar-zoom.com, and right now it's on sale. And right now there are some special bonuses. And then if you decide to jump in, we will make sure that you get all of those fast action bonuses, even if they're already sold out. So we'll go ahead and make sure that everybody who joined us today will get that if that's what you want, if you want to sign up for that. We're doing another workshop coming up Wednesday, guys. So we hope that you'll come back and hang out with us again. If you, for any reason, missed any of these, we're going to put all the recordings on the YouTube channel in a nice, tidy playlist for you called Essential Techniques. And please come back and join us on Wednesday.
Too, I think.
Say it again.
All live sessions are going to be saved in a private group in a separate unit called Live Session Replay. So they're going to put those in the actual Facebook group as well.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and so for sure, guys, come back and join us on Wednesday. If you joined us late, this will be available as a recording. You can certainly watch it. Thank you again for being here, and thank you for all of you who already took the step and invested in Essential Techniques. I think you're going to love it. Please come back and tell everybody what you think about it. We would appreciate that, and we will see you on Wednesday. Anything else you want to wrap up with, my friend?
No, just stay positive and keep practicing.
All right, guys. Thanks again. We will see you on Wednesday. Talk to you soon, guys. Go practice hard.
See you later.
See ya. See you, Steve.
Bye.
Thanks, man.
Next time on the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. Okay, so I'll just kind of roll here because my brain gets going. It's hard to stop. But basically what I got here are a bunch of notes that I'll try and get through as quickly as humanly possible for you to think about a little bit when it comes to picking. Okay, so we're not talking about slurring, hammer-ons, pull-offs, that sort of thing right now. But please, like I said in the last live session that Dan and I did, all this stuff is interconnected. To be able to do a certain kind of technique, it's always beneficial to develop strength in your fretting hand and all those sorts of things for these things to work, which is what Essential Techniques is really about. So the first thing really is the pick that you're using. We're going to start really basic, and I'm going to roll through these very, very quickly, but I want you to think about these. Okay. Number one is the style of pick that you're using makes a big difference. Okay, so the first things we're going to talk about here are a bit more intuitive. Okay, so not just getting in and how to speed pick or how to sweep pick or something like that, but thinking logically about what you're trying to do and set yourself up for success and not failure. So, hey, Steve Stine here from guitarzoom.com, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your feedback means more to me than you'll ever know. And be sure to check out my YouTube channels where you'll find over 1,000 videos to help you with your guitar playing. Thanks again for listening. Stay positive, keep playing, and keep having fun.
If you'd like some help with your guitar playing but you're not sure how to get started, go to guitarzoom.com and look for the Help Me Choose survey. By answering a few simple questions, you'll get Steve's personal recommendation of the perfect course for you. All this and more is available for you at guitarzoom.com.